Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
Good morning and welcome to the Motivated Martial Artist Podcast with me, Jackson White.
And me, Gavin Cook.
And this episode, we've got a really inspirational young lady called Rebecca Kane. She trained in martial arts from an early age with Filipino stick fighting. She participates in kickboxing and Muay Thai, and she's also sampled a little bit of the K1 environment. So we're going to welcome on Rebecca Kane. Good morning, Rebecca.
Morning, guys.
Good morning, you alright?
Morning, not bad, thank you, and thank you for having me.
No problem at all. It's good to have you on the show. What we're going to do, we're going to hand you over to Gavin for the first question, and we'll take it from there.
Okay then, Rebecca. So the first question we always ask our guests really is, just give us a little bit of an insight into the early years and your sort of schooling and how you got into martial arts and your childhood and that sort of stuff, really.
Cool. Well, I actually started Irish dancing first at 5 years old, and I was kind of sent the year after to karate classes, Wadaroo karate, which then turned into Wadaroo karate and Alfie Lewis's freestyle kickboxing under Bob Sykes, just to toughen up, really. Then at 14 years old, I wanted to get into the kickboxing ring. Bob Sykes said no to me. I saw the Filipino stick fighting, which looked amazing, and they seemed to be fighting full contact. So I ended up getting into that, and the journey took me to the Philippines at the age of 15. So I think I was the first under 16 to be allowed on Team GB with WECAF and go out there and compete at the World Championships. So it's been quite a strange, I obviously wanted to get into the ring and then doing stick fighting. Then years later, I got back into focusing on my Thai boxing, and I've ended up doing, fights sanctioned by WBC under Master A, and then going out to Thailand and doing a fight at the very first stadium in Phuket, which is called Suit, which I was on the undercard to one of the main kind of fights before New Year a couple of years ago, and then jumping back into K1 just to get tournament experience, really, because I'd not done the ring tournaments. So I ended up having quite a lot of success in 2018 in those tournaments. So I've got there's a few like shiny belts to show for it. Okay. But it was more so like getting in there and just being in the ring and doing what I kind of always dreamed to do as a kid, really.
Fantastic. So I mean, you're one of the first guests that we've had on the podcast, Rebecca, that does Filipino stick fighting. Just, I suppose, for the audience, really, just talk us through how that works in terms of in the competitive arena.
Well, I've actually, in that, I actually competed in every different sport format of it at the time. I retired at 21 years old, being a 5-time world champion at it, but I did the WECAF style, which was WECAF and Dossi Paris are very linked. The head of Dossi Paris was one of the presidents of WECAF for a long, long time, Junicio Cañete. And so there's two format styles of their tournaments are very similar. You fight in like a body armour with a live stick. They call it a live stick. It's not padded. There's no skin taken off it. It is what it is. You can break bones with those types of sticks. And with that one, it's judged as though it's like boxing. So, but your target area is from the knee all the way up to the head, but you've got like a 3 kilogram head guard on. Okay. It's not a kendo head guard. It is a little bit different. There's little areas on that head guard where there's no padding at all, which makes it a bit of an interesting fight. But then from that, I went on to do I was invited for an invitational by the Philippine Council of Masters back in 2005 to do their first World Championships, which was linked to the SEA Games, which is the Malaysian Olympics. Okay. And that's a very different format. Like, you don't have to wear padding if you don't want to. You don't have to wear gloves if you don't want to. But it's a padded stick. When I say a padded stick, people's hands were still getting broken in the tournament. Collarbones were still getting broken. Wow. You just wear a head guard, but the target area is from the toe all the way to the head. So it's very, very different. And then my first kind of tutor for the Filipino stick fighting, being Pat O'Malley, there's lots of rumours. People talk about the Black Eagles that you do, and that's kind of like MMA but with a stick. So yes, I had to do that in order to get a black belt downgrading through him and an instructorship. But then I went on to doing some work with the Dog Brothers, which is, again, it's reality-based stick fighting. So that's more, can you defend yourself in a street if someone's coming at you with a baseball bat? Yeah. Is what you're going to do work. Because obviously in the tournament format, where I guess it is a little bit like boxing, but very different.
Points? Is it points, Rebecca?
You've just got the stick and you've just got your hands. But yeah.
Sorry, Rebecca. Is it sort of based on points, or is there like a knockout element of that?
Right. So yeah, in the stick fighting, for the WECAF, it's based on points. So that's scored out of 10, like a boxing match, and that your WECAF Dossie Paris, that's scored in that way. The padded stick tournaments, it's a little bit like point stop. Okay. But it's harder contact, so you're going for clean shots. But I know in one of the fights in the Philippines, I think I scored like 27 to the opponent's like 4 or something. So it wasn't like a first to 10. It was fought in 2-minute rounds, and I think you had 3 2-minute rounds. Like in the finals, I think the other ones were 2 2-minute rounds. So it was fought in rounds, but clear points. Okay. So that one was from toe to head. In the Dog Brother stuff, there's no winner, no loser. It just is what it is. It's kind of they describe it as mind, heart, and balls, and okay. it's like your spirit. And you'll go to the pub after and have a chat and talk about it, and how you can improve your game, which is pretty cool. So that's something that I want to kind of get back into when I finish, like when I retire from the ring sports. Sure. I'll probably go back into the Dog Brother martial arts. It is more reality based.
Okay. Did you ever get any injuries from that stick fighting? It sounds actually quite brutal.
No. Oh, strangely, no. Just like the odd knock. When we used to fight a long time ago, like I don't realise how old I am now, but back in 1999, 2000, you used to fight with cricket gloves. Now I'm looking around and they're all wearing big ice hockey gloves, like goalkeeper gloves and stuff. Yeah. But we had cricket gloves, and there was a big gap between the thumb and the index finger. And if you got caught there, you basically learn to move your hand. Yeah. I think there's elements of the game that have probably changed now, where when they start adding more padding to anything, the game is very different. The people don't play the long range game as much. It tends to go more quarter or close range. Yeah. In order to stop the power shots coming through. So okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I played more of a Largo into like long into short range and played about with the ranges a bit. But
okay, obviously, yeah. As having sort of been in the martial arts world for a long time, as you guys have, it's martial arts evolves and changes with regulations and equipment and things like that. How have you seen your sport adapt? I'm sure it has changed quite dramatically over the years.
I think that's why I kind of, when I got the invitation to see the padded stick one, I was like, oh wow, that's a lot better because it's less armour. Yeah. Because at that point I was starting to see people with ice hockey under padding, to protect their legs. Yeah. So I know a lot of people ended up. I was probably one for it. I like to throw leg shots. So how are you going to open the head up? You throw a shot to the leg, the guard's going to come down, and then you throw to the head. So people had come away with welts and stuff all over the legs. I know from the Philippines, I did have 1 year where my legs were black from my hip to my knee. Right. Because obviously you get caught by 1 or 2 and the bruise had spread. So it wouldn't be a normal like laceration like from the other sticks. So that's about it really. That's about as bad as it got for me.
Okay. So
the odd bruise.
So you said that it's generally sort of 2-minute rounds. How important is obviously
in WECAF it's 1 minute rounds. Sorry.
Okay.
But in the padded stick it was 2 minutes.
Okay.
So there's the different formats.
How important is your stamina in that? Obviously, having obviously because you compete in sort of K1 and kickboxing and stuff like that, you'll understand obviously how important stamina is for those continuous long rounds. How important is stamina? Would you say in the Filipino stuff?
It was really really hard work because I used to train. So if I had a tournament coming up, like this was from the age of 15.
Yeah.
Coming up to the World Championships, going out to the Philippines, I would train for up to 100 rounds of sparring. Okay. So for a 10-week cycle before it, I'd start with 20 rounds, then build up all the way up to 100 rounds before I'd go out to the tournament. And I'd do that again before the British and stuff. So that was like 1 minute on, and then I'd have 15-second break instead of the 30-second break. So I'd kind of, like go over the top to build the stamina up. Because in that round, you've got 1 minute for the WECAF style. You're going kind of non-stop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, I guess, I don't want to say that it's a faster game than boxing.
Yeah.
Because it's different, because in the boxing you're doing more like you're punching forward, so you're thrusting more with your strikes. Whereas if it's more forearms that are working. But then your heart rate's up as well. You've got to move your feet to move out of the way. You've got to dodge, and weave. So it is just as vital. I think if someone was to get into the stick fighting arena from a kickboxing point of view, they'd probably have a shock. I think people have looked down on it sometimes over the years.
Yeah.
I would have said, to be honest, my World Championships in the Philippines was harder than some of the K1 fights over here.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that. I'd put my hand up and say that. Whether it's just a different burn or a different pain, on it.
Yeah, it's a totally different. Well, it's not a totally different sport, but it's a different sport, isn't it? You're using different muscles, different reactions, different speeds. So tell us then a little bit about your kickboxing then, Becky.
I went out to Thailand. So I got back into the kickbox. I kind of stopped training my kickboxing when I really focused on the stick fighting. Yeah. So what I thought was, I didn't want to get out there into the Philippines and kicks and get disqualified, or end up throwing a hook punch or something. So,
but you're right.
I really
you have
focused
to,
for a few years.
You have to adapt your training, don't you, to based on what you're currently going for, don't you? You know what I mean? So,
what you're focusing on, because
exactly.
I think the footwork differences as well. It is massive. I know, like for the stick fighting, I was fighting predominantly right lead for single stick. We did also fight double stick, which you kind of transition more between right and left, so that you don't lose your sticks. Because if you lose your stick, you get a point deduction, and if you lose your stick 3 times in the tournament, you lose the tournament. So that's kind of like a knockout,
right?
In a way. So yeah. So the kickboxing, So I was training it for I was training it from the age of 6 through to 14. I did Clash of the Titans one year in an England versus Wales match. I think that was 99. So that was like literally just before I took up the stick fighting. So, and I was training back in the day with Buster Reeves and Lynn Hardy and some of the other top champions that trained with Bob.
Brilliant.
So it was a great experience. But then I jumped in for an English title belt championships in 2012. I think I did actually have one before that, but I had a friend who ran a taekwondo club, and he said to me, "Oh, we've got a tournament coming up. If you want to come, it might be a good experience if you wanted to get back into your empty hand." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." So I entered for the tournament, and when I got there, they said, "Oh, there's no females for you to fight." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Yeah. So what happens here is all the black belts just fight. So I was against like men who were like 6 foot tall. Right. So I think I won the continuous at that event. and I got a silver in the point stop. But I remember getting told off for sweeping. I did a sweep on one of these guys. He was, flicking out the round kick. So I just did a sweep and a perfect counter, which in any karate place would have scored. But I got a warning. And then I think I hit him to the nose, which he started crying. And I got a warning again, and I was told to hit to the top of the head guard. And I thought, well, maybe this taekwondo stuff isn't, maybe these tournaments aren't for me. Like point stop's definitely not for me. Yeah. But I quite enjoyed the continuous. So then, I think that was then a few years later, because then I took on the premises, and I was still doing my Irish dancing, so I was still competing at world championship level at that. I took on a premises in 2009.
Becky, when did you have time to sleep? Just a quick question. When did you have time to sleep?
I don't at all. This is the hard thing. It's like, how do I do an interview? I'm trying to go through like my chronology, and I guess I've just kept myself so busy that when you look back, you think, oh God, I did do quite a lot. But when I'm kind of doing the stuff, I'm just thinking, well, I'm just doing that. Right? Okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
When you're in the midst of it, you sort of lose track of how much you've done, how much progress you're making, don't you?
I operate better, I think, when I'm busy as well, rather than like when you sat about, not really twiddling your thumbs. It's not for me. So, so I took a premises on in 2009, which then kept me busy. So, and then I was focusing. I thought, well, I'll focus on my Irish dancing for a little bit. And then 2012, I saw there was an English title belt for kick above the waist kickboxing. So I jumped into that, and I thought, well, if I do okay, then I might just focus on my Thai boxing after that, because I'll just see what this one's like, so that I can sit the box and say I've done it. I won the first round, and then I was gassed in the next two. It was like completely different. So throwing the kicks were completely different at that point then. But I knew that the kick above the waist wasn't really for me. So I focused on the Thai boxing then after that, and within 6 months did my first professional Thai boxing fight. And then I got ill. So I did actually get ill, and I was off for 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
To which then back in 2017, that's when I got back into my dancing. Ended up doing the TV show with Davina McCall. And then at the end of 2017, got on the plane, thought, well, let's see if I can get back into fight training, and did the fight over in Phuket. And then in the February 2018, I saw another British title fight, but this time for K1. And it was on the memorial of the day that I buried my mother. And I just thought, do you know what? I've got to do that. And that's when I won my first title for K1.
Okay, wow. Fantastic.
So
I can imagine that was really inspirational.
Thailand, I mean, I know we did like lots of interclubs and stuff in the Thai boxing. So I remember I did an interclub with Dakota Daicheva, Lisa Howard's daughter, which was a great experience. And it kind of showed me like what level I needed to be kind of at in the Thai boxing. Because I think at the time she was 5 times world champion at the time. So I've had some great experiences with it, but I guess I need to sit down and actually do a chronology, maybe for my website or something. But
or sit down and just breathe and meditate for a little bit.
Just breathe and have a rest.
Yeah. I mean, joking aside, I know you said obviously I don't need to delve in too much, but you said you were poorly. Is that something that took you a while to get over a bit having 3.5 years out of martial arts?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like. It's a bit of a quirky one. I ended up like having heavy metal poisoning.
Okay.
It was
listening to too much Iron Maiden.
Yeah, Maiden. So a lot of friends were joking. They were buying me like Transformer goodie bags, and I think I've got like my Iron Man top from Thailand.
Okay.
Someone got me an Iron Man onesie, which was pretty. I was like, okay, thanks for that. I've had to do like a detoxification process. It did kind of leave me with like the symptoms of like ME, which you'd expect with anyone who's had like an exposure to like heavy metals. We don't really know exactly how that's happened, so that's, maybe we'll find out at a later date. Sure. But I think the main thing is that your health is more important. So yeah, it took a bit of a chunk out of my my career, if you like. But I'm still here now to tell the tale. So
no, definitely, and still fighting on it and training hard, which is great.
Yeah. I think that was my goal, just to kind of get back. I didn't think I'd ever dance again, and I didn't think I'd ever fight again. So I guess the dancing I've had like a journey that I've kind of gone through to then get back into the ring and stuff. So it's it's worked out. Okay. I think.
So throughout that journey, I can imagine you weren't always fantastic at everything. Can you talk us about maybe one or two of the more memorable failures and that drove you on to achieve what you have so far?
Yeah, my very first point stop fight when I was 6-year-old, I lost by sudden death. I'd been training for about 3 months, and there was a tournament in Marsden. I think it was something run in the little circle Bob used to work in. And yeah, I lost by sudden death to a ridge hand against a taekwondo person. I'd never seen a ridge hand before.
My favourite technique.
Coming away from that. I know. I was like, what the hell? We only used to jab, front punch and reverse punch at the time, and I was like, where's this come from? So I got home from that tournament, and I just practiced every different version of a block against the ridge hand, and it kind of drove me to I didn't quit martial arts. I kept going, but I was like, okay, no, the ridge hand. So I think that was kind of an important learning. I know you get some people who they start a martial arts, they go to a tournament, they win the very first fight. I'm kind of glad that I didn't. And even with my first pro Thai boxing fight, I knocked the girl down in the second round with a leg kick, and it was beautiful. But then on points, I didn't get the win. I lost on points. So I'm kind of glad again that, I didn't win that first fight in that tournament. That fight, because, would I have got on a plane at a later date and gone to Phuket and fought over there? Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's important to sort of define these sort of mini failures, not as failures, but as a sort of as progress forward to a better goal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I think maybe it's from the dancing, but I kind of look at the performance. So you come back and you look at the performance and you think, well, okay, my hands could have been working more on that one, so I could have set things up a little bit better. But then you look at the good points of it as well and go, well, that low kick's brill. So keep that one up.
It's having that. Sorry, Becca. It's having that mentality, isn't it, to sort of go through a loss, but rather than just going home and sort of sitting there feeling sorry for yourself, actually thinking, okay, well, why did I lose it? And like you said, you lost to a ridge hand, so the first thing you thought, well, okay, how do I defend against a ridge hand? And it's having, like I say, it's having that mindset, isn't it? And I think a lot of that, comes from the discipline of martial arts.
Definitely, and say for as well, with the Irish dancing, when you went to tournaments, it was very different structure to martial arts. So you had beginner grade, then you have primary grade, intermediate grade, and open grade. So you actually have to win your dance to move up to the next level. Okay. And you have to win in that grade to move up to the next level. And there has to be a certain amount of competitors as well for it to count. So you kind of learn, say you're at one of those competitions and you've got, basically back in those days, maybe 7 performances to do in that competition. You might win one, place 5th in another, place 4th in another, place 2nd. And you kind of learn to kind of keep bouncing back, if that makes sense. Yeah, sure. Whereas I guess in the fight game, I guess where some people kind of lose out is where they'll go to an event, they might lose one fight, lose another fight, and they don't bounce back.
Yeah, it's resilience, isn't it? It's having that resilience to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, away from the martial arts then, what would you say your best achievements have been in your life thus far, away from the martial arts?
Best achievement, the greatest honour was being selected for the Olympic torch run back in 2012.
Brilliant.
Muhammad Ali has to have been one of my greatest inspirations. I love the way he danced in the ring. Around it, he just seemed to be dancing around his opponents. And there was an Olympics where he held the torch, and it must have been quite a long time, you know, when he's got his Parkinson's and he's struggling and he's struggling to lift that torch, and he does it, you know, that sheer determination from that man. And just to be like selected and to run with it, the image that was going through my head was that of Muhammad Ali and what he'd done and what he stood for really as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably one of the greatest achievements. But other than that, it goes back to that, you know, that one fight on the Memorial Day of the day that we buried my mum. You know, that nothing really capped that. And then the dance world title in Killarney. It was at a place that I'd taken my mum to exactly 10 years before she passed away. I took her there for her birthday. I was doing a different dance competition. So there was a bit of, you know, like little things that really meant a lot. That kind of meant a lot. So,
well, just talk us through that. You know, obviously it sounds like, I mean, you're a very, very, very motivated lady with all the things that you've done, and the mindset that you've got to, like I say, and the resilience that you've had. Just talk us through your mindset when you was going into that bout, knowing that was the same day that obviously you just buried your mum. How did you feel at that time, and you know what were the sort of?
Well, it was. I think that was about two years. I think that was the third anniversary, so the third year after we'd buried her. And I don't know, like I phoned my dad and I said, "Oh, Dad, I'm going to do a fight," and he was just like on the phone crying, going like, "Why are you fighting? Just why? Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Like I know you've done Thailand, but why are you doing this? Why?" And I was like, "I just have to."
Okay.
Just something in me said, "I have to do this one."
Yeah. Yeah. Did you win?
I just have to do it. I did, yeah. So yeah, that was that. As I say, like I don't think any, and that's the belt that I'd got from that one. I'd display in the dojo area of the training room, because you know, no other medal, no other belt that you know, that it's that experience. It's I guess it was helping me fight through a time where most people, well, everyone struggles, and I don't know, like with my mum's death as well, it was a sudden death. So it was exactly, I was diagnosed, and the NHS confirmed my diagnosis in the November of 2015, and she had her sudden death was the January. So it was like at a time when, you know, I could have needed her the most.
Yeah.
And it just meant the most, really. Just to get up that day and be doing something. You know, I think that's what she would have wanted as well. So she was a very, very strong Irish woman. I don't know if you've met many Irish women, but that is the only opponent I would have ever been afraid of would have been my mum in the ring with a slipper.
Brilliant.
You know, she was tough. So.
Okay. So talking about tough opponents then, so who would you say your toughest opponent ever has been then, Becky?
Most definitely my mum's backhand. I
could concur with that.
Honestly, in the kickboxing, I do not feel like I've been hit as hard as my mum's backhand in any of those tournaments. In the stick fighting, Lucy O'Malley had to have been one of the top. So Lucy O'Malley, I fought her the first time I was probably about 15, 16. And she was a world champion already. Like I was a kid, don't forget, fighting in the women's divisions as well.
Yeah.
So I was, and I was about 8 stone fighting against, I think Lucy might have been 11.5 stone, something like that. So there was a big difference. And I think I remember winning at one of the Dossie Paris World Championships. I won a Champion of Champions, and that was against Lucy, and it went to a 4th round, if I remember right. And Danny Goober was there. Gibney was there, Andy Gibney. I think he was reffing at that event. And the pure speed, I felt like I had to move faster than I've ever moved before because, you know, she was such a name to beat in that like fraternity, really.
Okay.
So that would have been probably one of my toughest. And then Rosie Stannings as well. She was amazing in that world. So again, she was another world champion that I had to win against to get my first British title for that when I was 15. So it was that was in the women's division. So yeah, it was pretty
some tough opponents then. for sure.
Pretty tough, yeah. And I think, I don't know, like, would I put one of my 15-year-olds in against, like, fully grown, like, women? I don't think you could these days.
No, it wouldn't ethically be right, would it?
Health and safety, yeah, it wouldn't seem right.
No.
Yeah.
But I seem to do okay against it. So I think, I remember John Harvey brought it up. I was doing an interview with him at the UK Martial Arts Show, and he brought it up that my record of 5 British titles at one tournament has still not been beaten to this day.
Brilliant.
And that was when I was 15.
I think
so
maybe Becky, we're just becoming a bit too soft, aren't we? I think sometimes.
do you think it is that we're becoming a bit of a snowflake?
Yeah, I mean, me and
like
Jackie.
culture?
Yeah, me and Jackie, when we were 14, 15, we used to go and enter junior competitions, and we used to go and sign ourselves up for the adult competitions in the same event, and we used to win against the juniors, then we used to go and win sometimes in the adult divisions, and we didn't even think anything of it. It was just, that's what we used to do.
Yeah.
Where I mean, you wouldn't think of, like you say, you wouldn't think of putting your own students in or your own children and get them
Not
to do
in
that.
this day.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, you'd have to, everybody would be against you, wouldn't they? And,
yeah.
And like, even back then, like, you wouldn't dream of like pulling out, because that was your fight. That was who you had. You
just got on with it, and that's the way it was, and no one would have mentioned it, and no one would have judged you, No. So just going back a little bit, you kept us hanging a little bit, Becky, because you mentioned about this TV show with Davina McCall.
Davina, yeah.
Yeah, what was all that about? I'm sure the audience are thinking, what the hell?
It was really
what's she
weird.
talking about?
So I won a British title for the Irish dancing, and then it was picked up on BBC Radio, did an interview. Then I got a phone call from Britain's Got Talent, and I actually said to them that I didn't want to do that show at this moment in time.
Okay.
I did like interviews with them and stuff, and I just didn't feel that it was for me. And then a week after, I get a phone call from the scouts of the Davina McCall show this time next year, and on that show you've got to make a pledge to achieve something by the next year.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so the local paper had put in that obviously I was going to win the Irish Dance World in memory of my mum. So it's like this journey has started kind of like as a legacy, really, like a legacy project, all in memory of my mum. And so I get onto the show and I'm asked to make the pledge, like this time next year, I'm going to be an Irish dancing world champion. And I'm thinking, God, that's a bit of a like big
commitment,
really,
definitely.
I'm not, people who know me know that, like, I wouldn't get up and just kind of like say that. So I remember saying top 5 places or a world medal, and they got, it got refilmed. I probably shouldn't say that, but it did. It got refilmed for me to say that I was going to be the world champion. And that clip is actually on all the TV commercials for the show that was coming up for 2018. And then they do a little mini interview. Well, they do the interview. So they got me out to dance. So you can see little snippets of the dancing. And then I'm sat with Davina, and the bit that they portray from the show it was perfect, really, because it was just that, I was the world champion and I did it. You could see my mum watching me, and it was just perfect, really. Brilliant. Rather than having like one of those big long interviews. I wouldn't want to be in a sob story interview, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course.
And I think so it was just perfect for what I was. But the experience of meeting Davina, she seems like a lovely lady. It was a great experience getting backstage on a production, and so yeah.
Fantastic. So one thing, we're going to have to start wrapping the interview up in a little bit, Becky, because we're getting close to our sort of time limit. But one thing we've not touched on is your club. So you run your own clubs, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so I've been running the club probably. I just wanted an extra day to train, really, to go out to the World Championships in the Philippines years ago, and I was just told to start your own class. So I was like, oh, okay. So it started kind of organically and turned into a 4,000 square foot full-time premises, which we then moved premises 5 years ago. Actually not long before I got sick, actually, we moved premises, and this one's a little bit bigger, but it's set up a little bit different as well. So we've got a dance room with a fully sprung dance floor. We've got a cage room. and we've got the dojo room, then waiting area, and things like most places have.
Brilliant. And that's in Huddersfield, right?
It's in Huddersfield, yeah. So we're doing a lot. Again, probably from like the Olympic torch run, I was doing a lot with women who've suffered from domestic violent backgrounds. But we don't just do that, but we do like ladies only courses and stuff now as well. So we've got a range of classes for everyone from ages 3 all the way up. But the ladies class seems to be quite popular because I think we're attracting women who might not necessarily go to a male instructor, who maybe just want a bit more inspiration, who want somewhere where they feel comfortable, where they don't feel like they're going into, like a bit, somewhere where it might have a chauvinist attitude. There seems to be, you hear quite a lot of feedback from people who've tried different places.
Absolutely.
So just keeping it as family friendly, really.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run a ladies only class last year, and it was really, really popular. But the feedback was always, the ladies just love the fact that they've got somewhere it's just ladies. There's no sort of big, hairy, sweaty, testosterone men in there. You know what I mean? And the thing is, obviously a lot of clubs these days are family classes with a lot of kids in it. So again, just to have that environment where it's just the ladies doing their thing, I think they really enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think it more's needed as well. I know some instructors have said that they struggle like with their ladies programs and things, but I've always found it quite easy to promote and stuff. So
fantastic.
It's giving them that bit of inspiration, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes they only stay with me for like a 6-week block, but then they send me a message and say, "Oh, thank you so much. You built my confidence up.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do something else, and you've built me up to be able to do that. Thank you so much." So I don't know if I've become more of a confidence coach rather than a martial arts coach.
I think that the two are entwined, aren't they? They're intrinsically entwined.
Yeah.
Once you're teaching the martial arts, you're looking to build, you're looking to mentor, you're looking to give confidence, and that's one of the great things that you get through, and the joys I certainly get through teaching martial arts, being able to be a bit of a mentor and a confidence coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
sounds
it makes
fantastic.
you feel good about what you do as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. Right then, Becky, we're going to have to wrap it up there. It's been great having you on this morning. It's been really insightful.
No, thank you, guys.
So
I hope I've not confused you too much about all the different things, but yeah.
No, not at all. No, you're
I didn't
very
realise
clear.
I'd been as busy as I have. So
no, the thing is, it's nice to have a platform to be able to tell your story, isn't it? As well, you've obviously got loads and loads of stories to tell.
Yeah, it's just that I just seem to have done a lot of stuff at the same time as well. So.
Good. Well, for a lot of our listeners, you'll be a true inspiration. How you can multitask, different disciplines, run your own business.
Well, I did my degree as well at uni at the same time as doing the Philippines 2 trips, and that was like, I don't know how I passed. I remember writing all the essays at 4 a.m. and getting stuff in just before they emptied the box.
Yeah.
Which you can't do now because it's all digital.
Yeah, definitely. You're showing your age there, then, Becky.
I know, like paper hand-ins.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Wicked. Cheers for that.
Yeah, thanks, Becky.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and our Facebook group, The Motivated Martial Artist Podcast.
Or check us out on Instagram, The Motivated Martial Artists,
where you'll see much more content and early insight into some of the interviews and some of the guests and some of the conversations around the things that we're discussing. Hope to see you all next week.
Bye for now.
Bye.